So today, I want to have a conversation with you about race, what's going on in society today, and what does all of this require from you as a leader. And if I'm completely honest, I really struggled as to whether I should even film this video. Look, I realize there's a risk in me doing this. This is a very sensitive topic. People have very strong feelings and beliefs and emotions run high. But the more I thought about it as somebody that has built a platform on the topics of leadership and love and doing my best to try to build a community that is an inclusive community, I really came to the conclusion, how could I not possibly have a voice in this matter? How hypocritical would it be of me? And I realize I'll probably lose some followers, and there'll be some haters out there that'll want to, try to knock me down for using my platform for a message like this. It doesn't belong in this forum. But at the end of the day, I truly believe that this is the right thing to do. And I know there are a lot of you out there that are struggling right now. There are a lot of white women and men that are in a position of leadership that want to make a difference. They want to do something, but you're feeling confused and scared and you don't even know where to start. You're afraid to even have a voice because what if I say the wrong thing and I make somebody angry? And I'll state the obvious and I'll admit up front, I know nothing about the topic of race and discrimination. I am a white man. I've never known any kind of racism or discrimination in my lifetime. So keep that in mind in terms of me sharing my perspective. But what I would like to speak to you about today is something that I do know a lot about, and that's leadership. And what your role is as a leader in the world right now in the middle of all this craziness. And on that note, here's what I want you to realize. You doing and saying nothing, remaining silent on this issue, is not you acting like a leader. And if that's where you find yourself, I am telling you, you are failing the test of leadership and you are missing out on a very big opportunity. So listen, if you're watching this video today and you're somebody that in your heart you truly want to make a difference, you don't support what you see happening in the world, but you're just not sure what you could possibly do, stick around today. I truly hope that this message gives you a little bit of clarity and a little bit of direction in this area. So here's how I'd like to start off this message today. I want to offer some sincere, heartfelt apologies to all of my Black brothers and sisters and any people of color that are in our community today. I apologize for any of the pain and the suffering that you must be going through, for the generations of pain and suffering that you've had to endure as part of this racism and discrimination. And I also want to say that after really thinking and listening and learning over the last week or so, I've realized that in many ways, I've been complicit in this area. I acknowledge my own shortcomings. When I look at my company and I look at the community that we have, the stories we tell, the images we put out on social media, I don't see a lot of diversity. And in the past, I probably would have said, well, is that really my job, right? But I realize now that answer is not good enough. I think each of us has a responsibility to do our part, as big or as small as that may seem, because it's the culmination of these efforts that really begin to make the change. But when I think about this issue, for sure in the past, my inclination would have been to do and say nothing. Would have been a lot safer for me to not just have a voice. But once again, what I've come to realize is that my silence around these issues has been a big part of why I've been complicit in this problem. Here's what I've come to understand about racism and discrimination. You can't solve the problem and heal it by denying it, by acting like it doesn't exist. We must learn how to embrace the difficult conversations around these issues, because in doing that, having open, authentic dialogue around these issues, that's a big part of how we dismantle the fear and the hate that's perpetuating this problem. And when I look at what most people do and what I've done in the past, we just have to really understand that posting on social media in support of a cause one day out of the year, or resting on the fact that in your heart, you know you're not a racist, and that you love and support all people, but still remaining silent, that's not good enough anymore. I believe as a leader, which all of you are, you've got a platform and you have a responsibility to do your part. So we have to ask ourselves as individuals, as leaders, as human beings, what can we do to try to help make this world a better place for the next generation? And look, I get it. It's so easy to get caught up in your own problems because it's not like you don't have anything going on today. I mean, just think about what we've had to deal with so far this year. It's so easy to just get caught up in the day-to-day of our own life and lose sight of the greater responsibility that we have as human beings on this planet. And one of the things I want you to understand is one of those responsibilities, especially as a white woman or man, is right now to be checking in with any black men or women or any people of color that are on your team, in your organization, or in your life. Because what I want you to realize, your silence right now says way more than you could ever begin to imagine. You've got to be reaching out to these people to just see how they're doing. Understand they're struggling, they're hurting, they feel beat down. They don't know what else could I possibly do. Let them know that they're seen. Let them know that you want to understand. Be willing to acknowledge any shortcomings that you may have had in the past in this area, and that you want to be a better, more inclusive leader. And most of all, let them know that you violently oppose what is happening in the world today with racism. Listen, don't make this a political issue. This is a basic human rights issue because this is all of our problem. This is happening to our black brothers and sisters, people of color. It's happening to other human beings. We are all God's creation, and it's happening to our world. It's happening to our society. Look, I look at my two young sons, and I ask myself, if things like this don't change, if it continues to go down this path, what kind of world are they going to grow up in? At some point, we've got to take responsibility to do our part. So that begs the question, what can we do? What can we possibly do as a white person living in this society facing these issues today? Well, I believe the first step is compassion. And compassion is simply this. It's caring enough and being willing to truly do your best to try to see this issue through the eyes of another person, to have enough empathy to truly take the time to care enough. That's what love is. Love is caring enough to truly want to understand another person's point of view. And listen, God knows we as a society would be much better if we could all practice some more compassion. And I would argue this is one of the greatest qualities of leadership. And I know that you're scared. I know you don't know how to start that conversation, but here's the thing. If you truly have love in your heart and you lead with compassion and caring and you want to understand, do you really need me to give you a script for that? Do you really need me to teach you how to be a human being to another human being? Just say, hey, how are you dealing right now with all this craziness? I'm telling you, that simple act alone will go so much further than anything you could ever imagine. And the fact that you're not doing this right now, it's a problem. You don't have to have the answers. You won't have the answers. We could never possibly have the answers, but here's what we can do. We can lend a listening ear. And in the act of doing that, we build a bridge. And sometimes that bridge becomes the first step to being able to make a change. So I would urge you to do that. Listen, I'm not saying you have to go post on social media every day. And listen, if you believe and that's in your heart, then yes, that's a good thing to do. But I'm just telling you, at a bare minimum, you need to be reaching out as a leader to the people of color on your team. And the next step is action. You know, I was listening to an interview and I heard someone say that racism and discrimination is not going to be ended by black and brown people. It's going to be ended by white people. So as a white person, we must understand that we have power in terms of ending this. We have power to influence some of the policies and the systems and the procedures that are in place that have created a big part of this problem. But that only comes when people like you and I are willing to do our parts, no matter how small it may seem in the act of doing it. And once again, I'll admit I'm no expert in terms of what those actions should be. There are plenty of other people out there that can give you advice in that area. But here's what I will focus on, because this is what I do know. I believe action for us begins with the way that we live our lives. And for me, the way that I live my life starts in my own home. And a big part of what I know that I can do to be able to create change in the world in this area is the way that I raise my children. I'll teach my children to love and respect all people. I won't teach them to be colorblind. I hear that's a piece of advice that a lot of people will say, just be colorblind. I don't think that that's the right answer. Because when you're saying just be colorblind, you're not acknowledging the individuality of the person. See, I want to be able to honor you for who you are, for the color of your skin. I want to understand some of the challenges that you've faced. But at the same time, I want to be able to recognize the thing inside of you, which is the same thing that's inside of me. It's our inability to recognize our sameness and get caught by just our exterior appearance and the color of our skin, right? And the world wants to pit us as enemies. That's what's creating the problem. I'll teach my children to live their life in a different way. When we talk about action, I've already given you some advice when it comes to leading your team, but I think let's talk for a second about social media. So the question I get is, Bob, how should I be showing up on social media? Should I be doing anything? Should I be saying anything? Well, I'll say this. If it's in your heart, if you truly believe that this is wrong, then I think you should say that. I think as a leader, you have a responsibility to have a voice in this matter, because here's what I know. If you are doing and saying the same thing as everyone else, you are not a leader by definition. And like I mentioned, people are watching you. They want to see if you have an opinion on this matter. And once again, see, here's where I think this is so frustrating for me. Like, it's possible for me to think that Black Lives Matter without that meaning that I support any specific political agenda or aspiration or any kind of violence that's happening in the world that might be tied to a specific organization. It's a basic human rights issue. You shouldn't be afraid to be able to take a stand for that. So, have a voice around this issue, but be prepared. Not everybody's going to agree with you. You're going to have people that are going to fall on the other side of this issue. But for me, see, here's what it comes down to. And this is what I'll leave you with. At some point in our lives, we have to ask ourselves an important question. What's the point of all of this? Why are we doing this? Why are we an entrepreneur? Why are we working so hard, pushing, hustling, grinding, achieving, putting in all that time? What's the point of it? What's the meaning? Why are we creating content every day on social media? Look, I'll tell you this. If the primary driver for you to do all this is so that you can make a lot of money and then buy a lot of nice stuff and then show that stuff off on social media to all your followers, if that's the reason why you're doing it, then listen, you probably want to stay away from this issue. But if you're like me and you're driven by something more important, if you feel that your work in your business is a calling, if you are driven by contribution and impact, if you truly want to make a difference in the world, then you have a responsibility to have a voice in this area. I truly believe that. See, here's the thing that I think about. I think about my 2 little boys and my wife, Shannon. And I think about, how do I want them to remember me? Do I want them to remember me as the guy that just provided a nice life for them, right? Bought them a lot of nice stuff and was very successful? Or do I want them to remember me as something more meaningful and important, a person of integrity, a person who had the character to be able to sometimes make difficult decisions, unpopular decisions, but stood for something and wanted to see change in the world? See, that's what I want to be remembered as. That's what I want my legacy to be. And coming from that place, this is the reason why I choose to have a voice. And I challenge you, if that's what motivates you, I challenge you to have a voice as well. So listen, I truly hope that this message gave you something. I don't know. I don't know if it was the right thing, the wrong thing to say, but here's what I know. I'm not going to let my fears and doubts and insecurity keep me from speaking up about something that I think is wrong. So look, if you got any value out of this message today, I'd love to hear from you. Drop me a comment below, and tell me you agree or disagree. Let's start a healthy, respectful discussion around these issues. And if you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe, and I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button as well. So thanks for being here, and I'll see you soon. Take care.